So a few months ago, Adam, you might remember we watched a hilarious and also disturbing congressional hearing where they were asking the presidents of Harvard and Yale and Penn University, why you let the Jew hate go freely on your campuses? And if you recall, remember they brought Claudine Gay out there, and Claudine Gay looked with a very, very smug expression, and she was like, "Listen, I don't know if advocating for killing Jews violates the terms of being a student here at Harvard."
Yeah, it was pretty insane. I remember some heads rolled, some people got fired, some people looked like morons, giggling and laughing in the camera, thinking that they were going to get away with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like that situation is unfolding again. Is that
Yes.
what's happening here?
Well, okay, so we all remember that hilarious. I said Yale, it was MIT. It was all hilarious, and now it's Columbia University's turn. Okay,
Oh,
Columbia University's been in some hot water, but it looks like the president of Columbia is like, I am not going to pull a Claudine Gay. Okay. I don't want Christopher Rufo going through everything I've ever done to see if I've, uh, plagiarized anything. I don't want to get fired. She is all like, no, ma'am, we are going to fire everyone involved. You're 100% right. We're going to do something about this.
well, I got to admit, I did watch some of this hearing, and I did come to the conclusion that Columbia is not messing around. They're like they're not going to be in the same situation that these other universities were in. They're like going full. We're going to get the bastards.
Right. They definitely are taking a well, as we're going to watch, the president is definitely saying that they're going to do something about it. However, the reason that they're being brought here, in Congress, and I think definitely merits criticism, is why has it taken so long for some of these professors and students who've been doing and saying crazy things? Why has it taken so long for them to be disciplined and or removed from their teaching positions?
Right.
So we're gonna watch just a couple short clips from this 3 hour hearing, but let's get into it.
Connor, Mr. Wahlberg, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the panel for being here. The day after the October 7th attack, Professor Joseph Massad, and I only single him out amongst numerous others that I could single out, because he particularly is a tenured professor and chairs the School of Arts and Sciences Academic Review Committee. He wrote in an article praising, and I quote him, "the innovative Palestinian resistance," end quote, for attacking Israel and glorifying Hamas's slaughter of nearly 1,200 Jews as, and I quote again, "awesome, astonishing, astounding, and incredible."
Okay, so this is the first guy they're talking about. This teacher there, Dr. Massad. Now, he seems like he's going to get in trouble for doing this, even though the only so he wrote this article. This article was the day after the October 7th attack. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And the only trouble he got for writing this article as a tenure professor is that they said someone went and talked to him. And that's it. Okay. And the president here later, when she's questioned about this, says that she doesn't actually know what exactly was, discussed in the conversation. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But
didn't she say he hasn't done it again though, right?
she does say that, but he hasn't done it again, right? Which, good for him, I guess.
Of a stern talking to, right?
Right. Stern talking to. But so it did seem like the president was signaling that either he's going to be in more trouble or they're going to investigate him for more trouble for these statements that he made. Now, this professor, Massad, fortunate choice of name.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow.
Right. Yeah. He responded to this to the New York Times. Okay. And this is what he said. He said, quote, "I certainly said nothing of the sort regarding the fact that he called Hamas's murder of Jews awesome, astounding, astonishing, and incredible." And he continued saying that he had not been notified by Columbia. He was under investigation. And that it was unfortunate that the president and other university leaders would, quote, condemn fabricated statements that I never made, when all three of them should have corrected the record to show that I never said or wrote such reprehensible statements.
So is this him complaining about the hearing here today?
Yes.
Oh,
today.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's already made a statement.
Right. So he's claiming that that this is all taken out of context. Okay. He didn't say these statements. Right. That's what he's claiming.
Yeah, he sees the writing on the wall. He's like, "Oh my God, they're coming for me."
So I'm going to read you a little bit of the beginning of his article that the guy was referencing, and you tell me how it hits you. Okay.
All right.
This is on October 8th, the day after, on a publication called The Electronic Intifada. Okay.
Well, already that's not too good, right?
And it's titled Just Another Battle or the Palestinian War of Liberation. Here we go. This is from the professor. What can motorized paragliders do in the face of one of the most formidable militaries in the world? Apparently much, in the hands of the innovative Palestinian resistance, which early on Saturday morning launched a surprise attack on Israel by air, land, and sea. Indeed, as stunning video shows, these paragliders have become the air force of the Palestinian resistance. Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, the major offensive led by Hamas on October 7th, was not expected by anyone. It came in retaliation for the ongoing Israeli pogroms in the West Bank, especially by settlers storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Jewish high holidays of the last month, not to mention the ongoing siege against Gaza itself for more than a decade and a half. The consensus of many Arab media commentators is that the resistance has effectively obliterated the myth of the Israeli military might and the underdeserved reputation of its intelligence apparatus, whose failures, judging from the shocking success of the Palestinian offensive, are staggering. No less astonishing was the Palestinians' resistance takeover of several Israeli settler colonies near the Gaza boundary. Perhaps the major achievement of the resistance is the temporary takeover of these settler colonies is the death blow to any confidence that the Israeli colonists had in their military and its ability to protect them. Reports promptly emerged that thousands of Israelis were fleeing through the desert on foot to escape the rocket and gunfire, while many still hiding inside settlements more than 24 hours into the resistance offensive. Those who have not already fled were being evacuated by the army from more than 24 colonies near Gaza. In the interest of safeguarding their lives and their children's futures, the colonists' flight from these settlements may prove to be a permanent exodus. They may have finally realized that living on land stolen from another people will never make them safe. The level of military engagement between the Palestinian fighters and the Israeli colonial forces is wide-ranging.
Okay, well, that's abhorrent. Stunning retaliation, ongoing siege, underdeserved, astounding, major achievement, colonialist, stolen land. I mean, it's pretty obvious he's saying Israel doesn't belong there.
Yeah. So, here's another one. He says, no less awesome were the scenes witnessed by millions of jubilant Arabs who spent the day watching the news of Palestinian fighters from Gaza breaking through Israel's prison fence or gliding over it by air. The resistance remarkable takeover of Israeli military bases and checkpoints, where even the resistance fighters marveled at the rows of abandoned Israeli tanks and armored vehicles, upon which they placed their banners.
So his backpedal is, what he means by remarkable is just, something you'd remark on. Like, how's he going to backpedal out of this?
I don't know. So when this guy tells New York Times, like, whoa, they took me out of context. This is so dishonest. Like, what? This guy's so full of shit. This is such a lie. His article is 100% sucking off Hamas, 100% just praising the action. And now that, it's going to get national attention, suddenly he's like, but this is out of context. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this is... He's definitely trying to avoid getting Claudine Gayed. He doesn't want to get fired over this. He realizes he doesn't have the kind of political capital you need to weather this storm, and it's time to start fighting for his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, hopefully now, and definitely a huge criticism to levy at Columbia is so they had a tenured professor write this insane article, and all they got was a stern talking to.
Well, the point of tenureship is that they're able to say and do things that would get a normal person fired. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's the idea behind academic tenureship. You're able to push the boundaries. So I think the tenureship is, I mean, I guess you can remove tenured staff, but it's much more difficult than just removing someone who's not
Of
tenured.
course, right.
Yeah.
And I think the point of like tenure and sort of the idea that you're talking about is important. The academic freedom of pushing the boundaries, should still be in the range of acceptability that we here in a Western liberal democratic society accept.
Right.
If there was some professor who was a tenured professor who was, talking about how, non-white people are genetically inferior and, we should just basically wipe them out and colonize them all, you better believe that guy would have been fired in 24 hours. But suddenly,
Yeah.
because it's like the Israel situation, and he's basically saying that, all Israelis need to be wiped out because they're all horrible colonizers, and he's praising and using these words awesome, and awe-inspiring, and remarkable to describe, the horrifying thing of October 7th. This is the day after. Okay. This guy should be fired immediately. We should not be having professors at colleges, private or public, that are advocating for this kind of insane, violent barbarism and murder.
Right. Yeah. Advocating for genocide or any kind of violence,
Yes.
any kind of political violence should be a no-no. Do you read the article with the New York Times, or was it just a statement with the New York Times?
Well, I read the article, but
has he elaborated?
He hasn't elaborated, not in the New York Times article.
Okay, so we'll do a follow-up when he actually elaborates, because I'm dying to know, like, how do you spin this article as something positive, especially now that the climate has completely changed. Look, and he seems conscious of the fact that we're in a completely different environment than when those other professors took the stand in Washington, D.C. months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knows it's a new day in town here, buddy. I don't think people are going to be writing articles like this the next time some terrorist attack happens in Israel. So, but it is interesting. And I did watch a considerable amount of the hearing, because, I mean, Columbia seems to be grappling with it, but the students are just, oh man, they're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They're still doing all this stuff. And,
yeah, they played in the beginning of the hearing like a montage of all these like insane student protests where they're saying from the river to the sea and Intifada and all this other like, horrible stuff.
Yeah, they do not care about the Jewish students.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They're basically targeting them and harassing them and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, there were reports
lots of examples.
Yeah, they gave examples of Jewish students actually being physically attacked or, intimidated, things of that nature. This is like, it really shows you how this whole political correctness, safe space, kind of like far, far radical leftist ideology, it was all a lie, because the whole thing was supposed to be, oh, we need to protect, the feelings of minority students and blah, 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 blah. And then when it comes to Jewish students, that all just flies right out the window. They don't care at all about, protecting these people's feelings or safety or anything of that nature.
Right. So you watched some of the intro of the hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of the major whataboutism in the beginning, where they tried to throw in Charlottesville? One of the senators tried to throw in footage of Charlottesville, and say, we've been talking about anti-Semitism on campus for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, it was the guy was like, he after they showed the montage of the students at Columbia, he's like, here's just a montage of people at Charlottesville for no reason. Like,
well, what? No, I think the reasoning was that, he tried to do a whataboutism on the right. is they're the real anti-Semites. And don't look here at the left being anti-Semitic, because it's the right that they're the anti-Semitic ones. And they totally slapped them down by saying, listen, this Charlottesville rally was a rally of private citizens. They were not students. They were not welcome on the campus. They went on the campus against the staff and student body's will, and they also were reprimanded immediately after this happened.
Right.
These are actual students. This is actual student professors.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
It's like night and day. Don't whataboutism here, buddy. Get out of here with your Charlottesville nonsense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good response.
It's a giant difference when it's literally tenured professors doing this. It's a bit scarier, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, because no one was defending. And this is the thing, like, no one was defending. No institutions were defending the Charlottesville people. You know, but you have all these people defending these professors and all these people defending these kids.
Yeah, you could argue the Charlottesville thing cost Donald Trump the presidency because of the way they spun it. Yeah, no one was defending them. Anyway.
So after this, the guy that we just watched talk, then we had Congresswoman Stefanik, who you might recall from the other hearing. She was the one that, you know, got famous kind of reaming Claudine Gay and the other Harvard professors.
Oh, yeah.
So she's, you know, looking for more trophies to adorn her wall here. So let's see what she has to say about all this.
Colleague Rep. Wahlberg's question regarding Professor Joseph Massad. So let me be clear, President, that he was spoken to. Who spoke with him?
He was spoken to by his head of department and his dean.
And what was he told?
I was not in those conversations. I think.
But you're not aware what he was
that
told?
language
What
was
he
unacceptable.
told? What was he told?
That language was unacceptable.
And were there?
They're talking about the professor that I read his article, so she doesn't even know what happened. He was just someone told him something, but she doesn't know what he was told. Which is pretty wild.
Or any other enforcement actions taken? Any other disciplinary actions taken?
In his case, he has not repeated anything like that ever since.
Does he need to repeat stating that the massacre of Israeli civilians was awesome? Does he need to repeat his participation in an unauthorized pro-Hamas demonstration on April 4th? You know, Professor David Schizzer talked about the lack of enforcement. Do you agree that this is an issue with a lack of enforcement? When the policy of Columbia specifically stated on April 5th said, I want to make clear that it is absolutely unacceptable for any member of this community to promote the use of terror or violence, and yet you have no action, no disciplinary action. Do you agree with how the university has handled this?
Yeah, we have 4,700 faculty at Columbia, most of whom spend all of their time dedicated to teaching their students.
But I'm talking about the faculty members who are supporting terror. And it's not just that case. Let me bring your attention to Muhammad Abdu, who was hired after the October 7th terrorist attack against Israel. He, on October 11th, posted, yes, I'm with Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad. He also decried false reports accusing Arabs and Muslims of decapitating the heads of children and being rapists. We know that there were decapitations of babies, of innocent Israeli citizens, of seniors, of women. There were rapes, and yet Columbia hired this individual as a professor. How did that hiring process work? Were you aware of those statements before the hiring?
So before we get into how that hiring practice worked, you know, when I heard her ask this question, I could just envision my mind. I could hear the voices of the obvious usual suspects coming out saying, I can't believe Stefanik came out and she repeated those lies about beheading babies and, you know, the raping of the women and all these things, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so it's funny, I saw after I watched this, I turned on the YouTubes and I saw that Brianna Greyjoy and Robbie had responded to this clip or this hearing. And of course, Brianna Greyjoy said that literal exact thing.
Did she really? Look, it's so predictable now.
Now, hilariously, Brianna Greyjoy didn't respond to the fact that this professor, declared that they were part of Hamas or the resistance.
Of course. What's to respond?
Right. Didn't respond to that. So I looked at this professor. This professor, he teaches a class. It's called Decolonial Queerness and Abolition
Give me a break.
in the Middle East. Okay. Let me read you the course study or the course description. This reading intensive seminar course will examine the continuing impact since 1492 of neocolonial, neo-imperial, Euro-American informed modernity animated by neoliberal Enlightenment values such as free will, humanity, secularism, racial capitalism, and individualist identity politics on past and contemporary conceptualizations of family, kinship, and friendship in Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities with a context of settler colonial societies, as well as in the post-colonial nations and societies that arguably never underwent adequate decolonialization. This course will explore kinship, intimacy, and friendship ties in a dynamic age where sexual and gender diversity is a hallmark of neoliberal secular modernity, whose advent historically opposed all non-Europeans to a plethora of false competing dualisms, such as secular religious heterogeneity/homogeneity, as well as discourses such as homo nationalism and pink washing. And then it continues.
What? Okay, just summarize that for me real quick.
I don't know. What the fuck am I don't know. I don't even know what that means. It's like just gobbledygook.
That's insane.
We will examine select themes such as racialized gender, sexuality, intimacy, class, intersectionality by drawing on transnational feminist discourse, queer, Black, and Indigenous studies, as well as queer of color critiques. I mean, like, okay.
This can't be for real, man.
It's for real. This is for real.
What are these kids learning in this class?
That's a great question.
Why would I take this class?
So,
aside from defining buzzwords.
Yeah, right. So this professor, besides saying that he supports Hamas this year, he said this. Okay, in January.
Right.
On
this
a
queer
podcast.
Professor.
Yeah, this queer, professor supporting Hamas. So the question is, how did this guy get hired this year when he made these comments about supporting Hamas before he was hired on some kind of podcast or something? And here's what Columbia needs to do. They need to institute the October surprise Twitter test. Okay. This is when you go through and you look from the dates of October 7th to, the week or two after for someone's Twitter, and you see what were they saying in regards to, Hamas's attack on Israel and all that stuff. So I did this service for Columbia University.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. Look at this. A public service, reaching out, helping the Ivy League get their act together.
Yes. So I found 3 interesting tweets that were all in the couple following days after October 7th. Okay. From this guy, this professor that was hired by Columbia. He said, Palestine is the litmus test for how serious American and Canadian settlers are when they claim land back, decolonization, and abolition on their social media profiles and writings and organizing to suit their philosophical debates, fragile egos, guilt, and fill the empty darkness of their own conceits.
Yikes.
So
can you send me a picture of this guy just so I can bring it up?
Oh.
Look, I gotta know. I have to know.
Let me show you. I'll show you a picture of this guy. You got to know?
Obviously, yeah. Obviously. When you encounter this kind of insanity, well, look, that's exactly what I expected.
What you expected? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that tweet, he's basically what he's saying is that, all these people, all these woke people in America and Canada, or by the way, he's calling everyone in America and Canada settlers. He said, all these people who talk about decolonization or whatever, if they're against, October 7th and the Hamas attack, then they're just fakes. That's what he said in that tweet.
Right.
Okay. Here's another tweet he said. He went on to criticize Medine Hassan and Ilhan Omar because they both, even though they're big supporters of Palestine, they both criticized publicly on Twitter the October 7th attack by Hamas. And his response to this was, BIPOC folks with white masks. No surprise, but what's odd is how allied this as symptomatic as crusading settler colonialism that is the blueprint for Zionism. What's your role, though, America, Canada, settlers on stolen land besides Xing protesting? Not that these aren't important. He has a very weird way of like speaking and typing.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But so there he is criticizing people for daring to criticize Hamas. And then another tweet he put out was decolonizing. This is like the worst one. This is on October 9th. Okay. This is 2 days after. He says, decolonizing isn't just inherently violent, it's also a spiritual act.
This is horrible. This is horrific. I first of all, I hate the stolen land stuff.
Right.
Because there's just really nothing that you can do with that. And yeah, this idea that, you know, political violence is some sort of spiritual awakening.
Right.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
So Columbia didn't do a very good job checking these people before they hired them, I guess, for their nonsensical bullshit. I think that'd be the easiest thing. You just gotta get rid of all these classes, these queer study of settler colonialism, getting a minor in minor in decolonization. You need to get rid of all this nonsense, all these nonsense subjects.
Yeah, it is progressive revivalism.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And it's garbage tier content, these that are ruining our society and ruining these kids' lives. So
yeah. Okay, let's continue back with Congresswoman Stefanik.
I share with you your repugnance at those remarks. I understand that. On my watch, faculty who make remarks that cross the line in terms of anti-Semitism, there will be consequences for them.
What are the consequences in this case?
I have 5 cases at the moment who have either been either taken out of the classroom or dismissed.
And is he one of those?
He will never work at Columbia again.
So he has been terminated?
He has been terminated. And not just terminated, but his files will show that he will never work at Columbia again.
So he's currently not employed by Columbia?
He is grading his students' papers and will never teach at Columbia again, and that will be on his permanent
How
record.
are you changing the hiring processes? Because on your watch, he was hired after he made these statements.
No, at least he's fired. Listen, I agree. We gotta figure out how this guy was hired in the first place. But at least she's saying he's gone. Okay, he's gone.
It honestly sounds like he just got fired, like right now.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe he did.
This just happened now.
Yeah. She takes out her phone. She's like, make a note. Fire this professor.
It is a difficult situation because if you have a teacher that's like halfway through some class, you're screwing over the kids. Yeah, sure. the kid all of a sudden. Well, I guess you just have a sane teacher come in and take over. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd say, yeah, guess what?
Teacher for this subject matter.
Yeah. Guess what, kids? Your teacher was fired. Now, look, we're bringing Stefanchik in to like take over the class. She's got some words for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Publicly, how are you ensuring this does not happen with your hiring process moving forward?
So when we hire people, obviously they have to meet the academic qualifications, but we do an employment check and a criminal record check. We also ask everyone to do an attestation that they have never been accused of discrimination or part of an investigation around harassment or discrimination. And that attestation has to be signed by all new employees.
And it didn't work in this case.
I think in this...
you know what? I like this. They're like, listen, we just ask, say, hey, have you ever done anything like super racist or bigoted, like, supported killing people? No, I've never done that. Oh, well, then I guess you're hired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least they can. Then they have a reason to fire them if they found out that they've lied on their application. Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
Sure.
This case, well, he may not have been subject to an investigation on discrimination or found guilty. It has to be you're found guilty.
But don't you
It may
think it's
not
a
have
problem
qualified.
when the hiring process of Columbia is hiring someone who makes those statements and they
I
hire
agree
him
with you.
after making those statements?
I agree with you that I think we need to look at how to toughen up those requirements. We do have a requirement, but I agree with you. I think we need to look at how we can make them
Let me
more
ask about
effective.
Professor Catherine.
I mean, she's trying to be diplomatic, but the right answer is just, had we known he made these statements, we wouldn't have hired him.
That is the right answer.
It was a
100%.
mistake. Yeah. We fully concur.
Frank from the Columbia Law School, who said that all Israeli students who have served in the IDF are dangerous and shouldn't be on campus. What disciplinary action has been taken against that professor?
I agree with you that those comments are completely unacceptable and discriminatory.
But I'm asking you what disciplinary action has been taken.
She has been spoken to by a very senior person in the administration, and she has said that that was not what she intended to say.
And has she publicly apologized?
I have suggested that.
You have suggested that. Has she done that?
I think she will be finding a way to clarify her position.
You see the concern here, though, with the lack of enforcement. You see the concern that speaking to these professors is not enough, and it's sending a message across the university that this is tolerated, these anti-Semitic statements from a position of authority in professors in the classroom is tolerated. My time has expired, but I will have multiple rounds of questions. I yield back.
Oh, I bet you will.
Yeah, when they call back to her, it's not as interesting. But, it is like ridiculous that it takes these people to get dragged in front of Congress before finally they're like, oh, I guess we should do something about this, huh?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much of this was done after they got the subpoenas.
Mm-hmm.
They make it seem in the very beginning of it as though they've been trying to tackle this head on for a very long time, especially after the debacle with the other Ivy League schools.
In their opening statements, yeah, they're like very much.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously they're going to make it sound like that. For all I know, they started working on it last weekend, right? They're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
We got to make this look good. But it's interesting. It's moving. It's definitely moving in the right direction.
That's true. That's true. Well, more of this that shows how insipid and toxic this sort of woke infiltration has been into our colleges, institutions. I'm all for it.
Yeah. It's time to clean up. Time to clean house here. Hi, you just listened to a Sitch and Adam recorded video. That's right. We're still doing recorded videos. And of course, we're still doing our live streams. Our Sunday live stream begins at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And our daily live streams start at 11 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Come check it out. You're going to love it. Subscribe to this channel right here to watch the live show or watch more of our awesome deep dive videos.